Good morning, everyone. I think you just heard that this meeting is being recorded. So by participating in this training, you indeed consent to being recorded. Um, Welcome to the Digital Application Dataset Integration training session for the electronic application forms. And the new eAF web form for variations is due to go live in October. We have some user acceptance testing still going on later this month. However, indeed, here we already have a training session and over 800 of you interested indeed in spending the next hour and a half learning indeed what the form is, how it works, and what you can expect from October onwards. So if we could just move forward, Katerina. So I'll soon hand over indeed to Christina for the content introduction. Then we'll have Zhao talk about access management, about indeed registering and logging in. Then we will have a demonstration of the actual user interface by the two product owners, Christina Pusari for EMA and the network product owner, Noel Diamant. We'll have the Q&A session indeed for 25 minutes at the end, and the Q&As, as a lot of you are probably already used from us, will happen through Slido. We'll talk about that later. So you can already start logging your questions during the session. And indeed, if Zhao or Christina or Noel or anybody else indeed has some time in between talking, we will already probably try to answer some of those questions in Slido. However, indeed, at 5 minutes to 12, we'll aim to indeed also do that live and actually talk about it during the session. At the end, I'll be back to just close things off and wish you a good afternoon. But for now, let's go to the next slide, Katerina. So I gave you the warning that it is that we are going to be recorded, and also, of course, indeed, with the use of Slido also comes with a disclaimer. On the next slide, indeed, I think it'll tell you how to get to Slido. So you can either go to slido.com and log in using that hash 2930969, or if you prefer to do it on your phone, you can put that QR code in your camera, and then it should offer you the option of opening the page directly on that Slido. Now, ask whatever question you want. We will prioritize questions that indeed relate to the subject matter of this training. We have a Q&A document that is coming out about the project indeed for the bigger strategic questions, in case those should pop up. Please also make use of the voting option. So if there's a particular question that is also your question or that you'd really like to see answered, rather than asking the question yourself, save yourself the typing and instead hit that thumbs up button, which actually votes it up and puts it up on the queue. Because we won't take questions as they come in. We will start taking questions indeed based on how many votes they get. So if there's a question you find important, upvote it. And again, we will try to answer questions throughout, but only at the end, indeed, will we put the questions actually up on the screen and start answering them live. I think with that, I am now properly handing over to Christina to talk about the electronic application web forms.
Hello, good morning to everyone, and welcome to this second training webinar. As mentioned by Joris, we still have the UAT oncoming, and I'll talk a little bit more about the timing of the UAT in a minute. But let's have a look at our status. So by now, most of you would be probably familiar what DADI is. So it's the Digital Application Dataset Integration Network project, and our aim is indeed to replace the current interactive PDF application forms with a web-based application forms that will be hosted in a new dedicated portal. These new web forms will be compliant to the ISO IDMP standard, And the DADI project deliverables include also a human readable PDF output, which is in line with the notice to applicant requirements. And that PDF output, which is a PDF rendition, will also contain a machine readable component, which is a FIRE XML format that can be then used to populate various different systems and feed the data back into PMS, for example. And just very quickly, what will DADI change? So of course, these PDF format interactive forms are changing into web-based forms, and we will, in the initial scope, do the variations, the initial MAA forms and the renewal form. And we are then looking further to the future if we will be implementing other forms for other procedures as well. We will cover the human and veterinary form products and forms. And now with the latest change that was announced earlier this summer, our initial release in October will only cover the centrally authorized products, and we will be following that up with a second release that will also cover all nationally authorized products, and that consists, of course, MRP, DCP, and the pure national authorizations. And then just to bear in mind what DADI will not change. So there will be a PDF output that you will be including in your variation application in your ECTD package, which you will be submitting as you do today. So there is no change to that process to apply or submit variations. And of course, the content of the application form is not changing because that is regulated by the NTA. We can move to the next slide, please. So just to remind you all on the revised go-live scope. So as I mentioned earlier, in October 22, we will have the first go-live with the web-based variation form for human medicinal products. And the scope in this initial phase will be limited to centrally authorized products. Then the products, the applications containing nationally authorized products will be coming a little bit later. And at this stage, the centrally authorized products that will be available from the system, they will come from the EMA's internal database. So at this point, there is no data yet coming from ex-EVMPD. And you may wonder, why did we change the scope? And the scope change was really due to the complexity of the synchronization of the data between the ex-EVMPD and PMS. We already knew it was going to be very, very complex, but there were further complexities that could not be foreseen by the by that project team. So we had to take a decision, which was actually quite suitable for our new progressive release module, because we are now following for the DADI project the EMA agile development approach, which means that we will be doing multiple releases, adding features as they become available. And this is a perfect example how to do that in real life. Indeed, we had anticipated initially that we would release a form that covers both CAPS and NAPS. Now we can test also the agile development approach working for this initial release. And then in March, there will be a second release of this human variation form, and that release will support all types of EU variation procedures, so for CAPS and NAPS. And we will also, of course, deliver some bug fixes with that release. If we can move to the next slide, please. So here is our September timeline. You may notice that there's a slight difference to the one that we presented in July. So now the UAT for centralized products is postponed by 2 weeks. So we will be starting on the 19th of September and running it as initially planned for 2 weeks. We don't foresee a delay in the go live for this form, so that is still anticipated to happen at the end of October, but naturally this will be confirmed once we have concluded the UAT and we better understand what kind of issues may be faced by those UAT testers. In December, we will be starting another UAT for CAPS and NAPS data from PMS, and here we will have the product data which is sourced from EMA's internal database and the EVMPD. So you will see a slightly different data set also for the centrally authorized products that have already been available in this prior release. Then we have our next major release planned for March 23. Which indeed then include the CAPS and NAPS and the bug fixes. And it is that release that triggers the formal transitional period, which will run for 6 months. So the October release doesn't trigger transition. So you're, of course, very welcome to use the form, but we decided that we will trigger the transitional period when all products are available through the forms. About halfway through that transitional period, we will be releasing a further bug fix release. And once that parallel use of the old and the new forms has finished in around September 23, the use of the web form will become mandatory. And we are then planning to have a further release with additional functionality, which would be kind of the next major release, which will support the structured data, and that is planned for the Q4 of 23. And of course, during all this time, we are also preparing for the work to develop the further forms. So this would be the veterinary variations, both human and veterinary initial marketing authorization forms, and the renewals. But please don't read anything to the order of that list. We will be confirming later on which form we will start with. Thank you. And then we'll look at the next slide, which details the impacts at go live for the applicants. So, of course, we need to bear in mind that there is quite a change in ways of working. Today, you can just go to the eSubmissions website and download the form. In future, you will need to register to access the application forms, and you will need to have a correct level of access for all users. So there will be a very careful access management so that wrong companies don't have access to products that they should not have. And of course, for consultancy users, it's important to engage with the marketing authorization holders to ensure that you have access to the relevant medicinal products so that you can make the fill in the applications on behalf of the marketing authorization holders. We will, of course, be providing a training on the new web application functionalities, but from the regulatory side, there is no change to the procedure. So really, the change is in how to fill in the form and how to generate that PDF. You will be including it inside the ECTD package as today, so there's no change into that. Of course, from the technology side, please make sure that you'll have compliant web browsers and certain quality of life plugins available. And it is important to remember that the management of the web forms will be purely online instead of the document management systems and email. So you can no longer share the forms via email, but it happens through this system. And my colleagues will be demonstrating how that happens very soon. Then, of course, again, as I mentioned earlier, the available data for CAPS will come from EMA's internal database. Some of you may know that database as IAMED. And at this point, and in future, of course, the users, often marketing authorization holder, may only select products of their own organization. And if there's need to, for a work sharing procedure, for example, you will need to be associated with the other companies, which will always be, of course, required also for consultancies. So association is required in EMA access management system to ensure that you have an appropriate role to draft applications on behalf of other applicants or consortiums. And procedurally, initially, we need to remember that the web-based forms will be only used for CAPS in this initial release in October. And if there are any CAP and NAP work sharing procedures, you should use PDF before we are able to provide the NAPs through the next release. And with that, I will hand over to my colleagues, Joao and Noel, to talk a little bit more about the access management. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. Joao and I will give you a brief moment of rest, and we will touch on the topics of access management. Later on, Christina will guide us through the newest version, latest version of the application form. I believe the first time feature complete release, and we were looking very much forward to. So for now, just a quick word on access. As we have presented in I believe it was July and the months before that, June, we have several roles available depending if you are an industry member or if you are from the NCA sites. Both will get access to the system, but what is necessary is that you have to be registered. This is an online system. We're managing your draft applications for you. You can save them, but it means you need an account. First off, you will either already have an admin account or you can actually apply for it already. And once you have your admin accounts with EMA, you can then assign any kind of other roles to the people working with you and for you. The usual access that you will apply is the eAF Applicant Manager. For now, it's a UAT role that is online. So if you participate in the UAT, this is the role you will most likely apply for. If you want a little bit less access, or if you want to work with people and don't share your products, you will give them the eAF Applicant Contributor role. This gives people the opportunity to work with you, to share. You can share your applications with them, but you do not share your product information. And if you just have either a small company, you don't want to have so much work with your access management, you can take the coordinator role, which will give you access to all of the applications within your company. This is mostly suitable for, as I said, smaller companies, or during the test, maybe because you want to see what other people are doing in your environment, in your organization. Now, if we could go to the next slide, please. So to use the system, if you are an applicant, you first off need to have an EMA user account. Most people have already had some kind of contact with EMA, meaning you might very well have an EMA user account. You can look this up by going to register.ema.europa.eu and see if you can log in, or if you don't remember, you can just create an account. It will tell you if you have one. This is a self-service portal, meaning there is nothing else needed apart from you creating that account. If you want to apply for an industry user admin account, you have to have a proof of authority, saying some kind of document that proves that you actually are allowed to do this for this company. This is the only thing we will check. Every other role you are then responsible for within your company. So this is a kind of delegated user administration. EMA will only check the admin role. Whatever comes later on, please organize. You are welcome to organize yourself. Now, in order to do this, you go to register.ema.eu and request a role. Now, this is live already, so everybody who is here, if you haven't done this before, please do so. Go to the register side, get an account, and request the IRIS-EAF Industry User Admin role. This is needed if you want to participate in the UT, but it is also the same role that is later on required for the actual production system. Although it is not live yet, you can already set up your accounts and make sure once it is live that you have full access. If you encounter any issues, the that refer you to the documentation is within this slide. This slide deck is being disseminated, well, all ready for download. You can click on this little icon for the user registration guide, which tells you from A to Z exactly what you need to do, the roles that you need to log up, and it will anticipate any problems that you could run into. It has frequently asked questions like retrieving your username, password, etc. And as this is a pure online system and everybody is required to request a role, which is more than it was with a PDF. A PDF in this case was a little bit simpler. You could just send it to anybody who wants to. We have more features now than this PDF, but it also needs you to be online, meaning everybody needs to be registered, everybody needs a role. So the feedback that we got from industry colleagues was that if you're working for multiple organizations, this might be an administrative burden. So we were thinking about what we can do, and thank you very much to those people that have requested with EMA the change request for IAM to request roles for multiple organizations at the same time. This feature should now help you if you are working for multiple organizations like a consultancy, or if you are part of a big pharma and you have 30, 40 affiliates. This will make requesting roles a lot easier. Now, how this new feature exactly works is something that João will present you by doing a little bit live demo of requesting this role. Just be aware, if you do request that role, your organization has to be in OMS. We're using these 4 services, meaning please make sure that whoever you're working for is already in the organization management system of SPOR. I'm now handing over to João. João, thank you very much for showing us, making sure that this feature was actually delivered. And thank you also to the IAM team who is not here today, that this could be done before we actually go live. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Noel. Good morning, everyone. Also, welcome from my side. As Noel mentioned, I will be demonstrating the how to access a role in our EMA account management portal, and we will also see a first glance of how to access the eAF portal itself. Before that, and if we can move to the next slide, as Noel already mentioned, we recently addressed your need to submit in one single request roles for multiple organizations. And we have made this live very recently. So hence this disclaimer, you may be already acquainted of this look and feel of our EMA account management portal. You will see now the request access for organizations. This is where we strongly recommend you to click for requesting your role, irrespective of whether you want to submit an access role for one single organization or multiple organizations. If we move to the next slide. Here you see the timeline that we have planned for using the old way to submit an access request via the Manage My Access, and the new workflow to request roles, so via request access for organizations. What we can see here is that until end of September, the Manage My Access will still be available only for submitting single requests, requests for single organizations. And as from October, this functionality will be discontinued. And that's why we already recommended as from now to use the new way to submit an access role request. So I would now share my screen for the demonstration part. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen. with an in-private browser. So what I would then show you first is our EMA account management portal. So the link is register.ema.europa.eu. You may be already acquainted. So here you have further information on the EMA account creation itself. It's a self-service form that quite easy to and straightforward to fill in. This step I will skip, assuming that you already have an EMA account, and we'll proceed directly with the sign-in. Nevertheless, if you have any issue with your account, if you don't remember your username, if you need to reactivate it or retrieve your password, you have all the steps in these tabs over here. I will now then proceed with the sign in. So I have my account already created. I log in. And that's where we land. First thing I wanted to show you is in this icon here, in this button, Edit Entity. Here you can see the roles that are already assigned to your account. So if you click Edit Entity and then Access on the left-hand side menu, you see the list of roles that are already assigned to your account. You may have some roles that are automatically assigned to your account, so nothing to worry about. That's the standard procedure. And in my case, these are the roles that I have requested and then they have been approved. If we go back to the home page, I will now simulate then the submission of an access role request. I will then use the new workflow, request access for organizations. And we can see here in this horizontal bar, what are the steps that we need to follow. The first one being searching criteria. The search criteria is defined by two modules, let's say. We need to define or select a country or a couple of countries. And then we need to fill in one of these other criteria. So I will select for this demo Netherlands, United Kingdom, Ireland, and Belgium. So as you can see, you can type and then you are prompted with the country itself. You can also delete the country with selecting the cross or continue adding as many countries as you wish. And then on the other criteria, also up to you, you can just add the full name or ID, or you can just type some parts of the name that you want to add. I will add, for instance, here UAT. We have a couple of organizations for the sake of testing the system. So then I click next. So this will filter out the organizations according to the criteria that I selected on step 1. Exactly. So then we jump to the step 2, select organization. So this list that we see here is already filtered by the criteria from the first step. We can then, as mentioned, select multiple organizations as we wish. For the sake of this demo, I will select these organizations which are fake. Let's select org1 and org2. And then I click next. The step 3 is for the selection of the role itself. So we can see first on this left corner the organizations that were selected on the previous step. So always to be informed. And we can use the search bar to filter down the roles that we want to select. In this case, I will use it and just type eAF. And as you can see, only the 4 roles are displayed now according to my search. And as Noel explained, they allow you they allow you different grants. I will select, let's say, the coordinator role. And then I click next. As you can see, I was in step 3, select roles, and I immediately jumped to step 5. This is because I selected an applicant related role, and applicant related roles do not need additional information, so they don't need the step 4. This step 4 is if you are requesting an administrator role. So this user admin role that also Noel mentioned. The step 4 would be then to attach the proof of authority. It's a requirement, so it's a mandatory step for that case. Since in my demo I didn't select that role, we automatically skipped this step. So this is in the end the steps to proceed on how to request a role. What happens next? The administrator of your organization receives an email notification informing that a given user has submitted an access role request, and the administrator needs to come to the register.ema.eu webpage, and he or she, if they are administrators, they will see on this box here, your pending approvals. They will see the number of requests that have been submitted. So what the administrators need to do is to come here to sign in and then select the pending request and approve it or deny it. Once that happens, you are then, let's say, assigned to the role and entitled to start using the eAF portal. There will be around 45 minutes time between the time that your administrator approves an access role request and the time that you can log in for the first time in the eAF portal. And if I now showcase you, once these 45 minutes happen, let's say you are then, let's say, entitled or allowed to access the eAF portal. This here is the link to the eAF portal in UAT environment. You can also find it in the slides. And this is the current look and feel. So the first step is again to sign in after having the role assigned to you. And the sign-in starts with entering your email or your identity email. So how is this compiled? You can see here information. It's your user ID followed by @id.ema.europa.eu. So it's the same username as you used for the EMA account management portal, followed by this id.ema.europa.eu. The next step is the password. So you enter the same password. And what we have here is the multi-factor authentication happening. So you need to provide the password for your account, plus one of two second authentication factors. One of them is the use of the Microsoft Authenticator App. So that is an app that you would need to install in your mobile phone, do the sign in there, and then every time that you try to do a login, which is now my case, you receive a notification on your phone, and you basically need to approve or prove that someone with your account is trying to access the system, which I will approve right now on my phone. So I will say approve. The second, actually before I approve, the second factor authentication. So this happened now because I took too much time. The second multi-factor authentication is actually SMS. So you can also do it. You can click here, get a code. So a different way, other than the Microsoft Authenticator app, you would need to enter your mobile phone. You receive a message with a code, and then you have to insert the code. I will just use the Microsoft Authenticator app. So I will ask to send another request. Hopefully I receive it. Yes, I approve. And then I am signed in. It's asking me if I want to stay signed in. I will say yes. And that's where I land on the eAF portal itself. We can go to home again. And if I want to simulate, let's say, creating a new application form, I would need to come to this top right bar, application forms, new application form. And then start the steps on the application itself. Just one more reference that, for instance, the list of market authorization holders that you will see here depends on the roles that you are entitled with in the EMA account management portal. So you would see here the list of the organizations that you belong to. In this case, I don't have any because my request has not yet been approved. Otherwise, I would see here some. Same goes for the next steps when you have to select the product and so on. Always depends on the roles that you are assigned to and the grants that this role gives you. So in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to show. I would then now stop sharing my screen, and if you could share again the presentation. Yeah, so I hand over now to Christina for the demonstration on the user interface. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Noel and Joao. I will start sharing in a minute. I have a slide demo effect where the application is behaving a little bit slowly, but hopefully we will recover very soon. And here, before I start the demo, we have a very important note to all participants and to all testers. So as Noel mentioned earlier, we are actually now for the first time feature complete. So all features for the go live have been developed. However, there are still some bugs present in the system and they may interfere slightly with the demonstration. So please do note, this is not the final version of the system. And this is the very reason why we have decided to delay the start of the user acceptance testing. There will be an additional bug fix releases that will be deployed prior to the UAT into this UAT environment. The team has worked incredibly hard to deploy just very late last night this latest version that is feature complete into the UAT environment. So those colleagues who are participating here today and who are UAT testers, you can actually log in to the UAT environment and you can see all these features. But please bear in mind that there are bugs in the system. It will behave better when we start the actual UAT, and I may have some demo effects happening while I'm demonstrating, but if you wish, you can follow the steps that I'm doing, or you can choose to just concentrate to look at what I'm doing. And of course, after the UAT finishes, before the go live, you can expect that there will be several bug fix deployments coming to your way. So you may find that the system is suddenly not available because we're doing a deployment to fix a bug. But with that note, I shall share my screen and we will have a look at the UAT environment of the system. There. So please do let me know if you cannot see my screen. I know the resolution is quite small. I'm trying to keep it as large as I can so that I can still see what I'm doing. But please note that in WebEx, you can increase the font size, so you can scroll the resolution for yourselves for a little bit bigger. I know it may be very, very hard to read, especially in some views, and I will try and enlarge where I can. But yes, it's something that is always difficult when you're demonstrating a system. So I have entered through the home page, and I've clicked here to application forms. I will now click here, create new application forms. As you know, you have two different ways to enter or to create a new application form, from the drop-down menu here or here from the plus button. So I will use this. So for now, we only have the variation form, and we can give it a name that we would like. At this point, you cannot change the name. So bear in mind that when you are starting, you will select your marketing authorization holder. For the demo purposes, I will use the European Medicines Agency, and I have a slightly different access. So I have access to all products. So hence I can do a demonstration like this. As my colleagues demonstrated, this is the very important step to add a co-author. So for example, if I went here, in this case, I want to add a co-author from a different organization. So here I would need to search this person using their email address. And in this case, I will choose my co-product owner, Noel. You can see this part still here indicating what other organizations this colleague is associated with. This will be hidden after the UAT, but before the go live. So we save that, and then you can see Noel appearing in this list. I could then choose to send him a notification so that he knows that I've invited him to work in this application with me, and I can click send, and Noel should now receive an email. I can then click to the next step to move into the very important step of product selection. We have improved this product selection a little bit in this release. Apologies, this is something because I have all the products available in the system, so this is a little bit slow, but please bear with me while the system is thinking. And of course, when you are entering the system, you will only be able to select from products that your marketing authorization you are associated with. So if you're a marketing authorization holder, you will have products that are associated to you. If you're a consultancy, you will have products that the marketing authorization holders that you're working with has associated with you. Here, the list of products will become available, so you can see it's loading. We won't disturb it while it's loading. And of course, this is a performance that is still due to system not being final. We are working on improving the performance as well, so please don't worry, it will not be this slow when we go live. Because of course, one of the main benefits of moving into a web-based user interface is that it's faster opening than our current interactive PDFs, where we know that there is indeed plenty of room for improvement. I will then select a product, and I will save. And once this is saved, you can see the product here, and we can then validate that we have selected the product so that we know that this section is finished. We've done what we need to do here. We're then moving to the adding the scope for the change. Here, for the first time now, you will see what I would consider a major improvement. So instead of going through multiple drop-down menus, which was quite tedious and very slow, at least in my view, we now have a search here. So, for example, for this medical device change that I'm going to demonstrate, I can just simply start typing the scope in here. It is not case sensitive, as you can see. It has brought back all the B4 scopes, which I just select like so. And there are little flickering, which we will fix before go live. I can then select the relevant procedure type. For this case, I'll take type 1A. Here you will see the date format has changed. That is a bug we will be addressing soon. And here we have another bug. These will not be pre-selected when you come to this view, but you will select the conditions and documentations as usually. And of course, if you don't comply or if you otherwise wish to leave a note, you can edit as you can in today's PDF as well. So we will save this scope here now. And you can see that I have selected the scope. We can save, and it will give us a notice that it has been successfully saved, and we can validate if we wish. If we want to add another scope, we simply repeat this step. Then we move to the procedural information section. So you can see we no longer have all of those next buttons down here, but the navigation happens through this side panel here. So we go to the procedural information just to check everything is correct. I have selected a single centralized product, and the type of application is indicated as single regulatory activity. If I had selected more than one product, more than one authorization product, you would then see the work sharing box ticked, or for type 1As, it may indicate that is an IG if that is relevant. You can see the variation type, and here now we will select medical devices because that's something that I want to demonstrate to you today. So if we want to add a procedure number, if that was relevant, for example, this is a response to the validation, so you may already be aware of the procedure number, or you've got an IG procedure or work sharing, you may wish to add that number there. You can add it and save, and it will then appear here. The name and the address of the marketing authorization holder are already indicated here because I had to select that in the very first step. Then we can provide the phone number and email address and the contact person details as previously. So let's not spend too much time on this. And we can then select the company again here. And here you have to use OMS, so it is not possible to manually enter these details. And if you want to search with them, you don't want to type the full name, you can then use the asterisk for wildcard. Searching, hopefully the organization will appear soon. Go, I will select that, and we move forward. And I'll save. And there you can see we've filled in all the sections, and of course always the sections that we are not working on are hidden or can be hidden here. We can save and validate to indicate that we have finished with this section. Now another major improvement has been implemented in the proposed changes section. So we have the precise scope and background for change. So this is currently 2 fields here, but in the PDF rendition, there will be then just 1 field as in the NTA form. You have all the different possibilities for editing images and so forth. And I'll save that. So you add your details on the precise scope and background for change. And we've also renamed these sections to make it more logical and easier for you to find where exactly you are in that form. Here, there's there's a minor bug. You should see the product details here. This will be fixed. And then we can go to add changes. So for the present and proposed changes, again, we have now moved the fields so that they're next to each other like they are in the PDF. So we can type our present and proposed details here. And we have also now added an ability when we add an organization, if you do not have the, if you cannot find the organization from OMS, only for the present organization though, you can tick this box and you can then enter the details manually. And then, however, for the proposed organization, you will always have to use OMS lookup. So it's not possible to do that manually. So there you will always have to enter the organization from OMS. And if we don't select an organization from OMS, we can tick this box here. And then we move to save. Then to indicate or to link the change and the product, we will select the scope here. We move to the next tab to select the medicinal product, which is here. There's a minor bug here. Of course, I should be able to select all of them by clicking that top button, but it's not working at the moment. So please bear in mind, this is not the final version. It will be improved, but we really wanted to be able to show you today these features, even though we had to take the difficult decision to postpone the UAT a little bit. So I will move back here. Now the change appears here, and now I can open the medical devices. So there's a little bug here, so I had to do this a little bit difficult way, but now I can add the details into the medical devices section. Of course, we don't have this data today available in our EMA database or even in XEVMPD, so there are no present values for the devices. If I wish to add the device, so this is the section 4D of the PDF form. So the fields are the same. So for example, I will choose change to the design or intended purpose. Then I move to the actual details of the device. So for example, I will add an oral syringe. This is a packaged. The device type is an oral syringe. I can search like so. We will choose the classification. If I select class 1, then the options will appear like in the PDF. We can add the serial number for the syringe, and then we'll add the intended purpose of the device and the description. So then we can move forward to add the manufacturer of the device. And then the manufacturer needs to be selected from OMS. So instead of spending more time on searching, we'll do it like that. So I'll just use some saved information here, which is just a browser blocking, which enables me to do that. You can then indicate in these lookups for example, I will here choose, is this the manufacturer's EU declaration for conformity? So these all are exactly like in the PDF. I'll give the notified body number, and again, we can search for the notified body. So
Christina, just because we have received quite a lot of questions on
yes,
on which plugins to use, and have the perfect example here. You're just typing the title of one person, and the browser will already suggest information of the rest. So this is the great benefit that we have on the web forms, which should save you some time in filling it in.
Absolutely, indeed. Thank you, Noel. So I will save that. Obviously, I'm also very aware of the time. So here we also have the ability to add other applications. If it was an EMA centralized product, we can select it from here. Unfortunately, there is a little issue there, so I cannot add from the list at the moment, but we have, of course, a free text field where another procedure number could be added. And we can then save. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I just wanted to show you that if we selected a different product, I won't start a new form. So please ignore the fact that this is kind of not a realistic scenario. I will select another product here. Now, just to display the orphan and pediatric sections that will the 4A, B, and C sections that are also in the PDF. And we can then look at the PDF generation. This shouldn't take much longer anymore. And of course, a little demo effect. We have a slight wait for the product. But all these issues should be solved before the UAT starts. So please don't be too alarmed. We felt that it's more important to be able to show you that all features have been developed than to worry about some defects. But we are very confident that we will be able to solve those issues. And during this early access that we can now offer, you will, of course, as a tester or consolidator, will receive more information inviting you for this early access. Don't start testing per se yet, so don't start reporting. We are aware there is still quite a few bugs, and we will probably send you a list of bugs that you are aware and you know what to avoid. So that you can do some familiarization with the system, but it's we felt it's very useful to be able to do that. So now I have selected another product here, which you can see on the list, like so, and I'll also have to select another scope because we will need a type 2 variation to show these sections. So you will get another quick demonstration of this improved scope selection, like so. So this is much faster than drilling down the 6 layers of variation classification, and we felt that you would always know what variation you're going to apply for, so it's not necessary to see all of them, and of course you can always refer back to the variation classification if needed. So it's a type 2 variation, and I will save, and then we should be able to see additional information section appearing. Let's wait a little bit. We have a bit more demo effect than we had hoped for. If it doesn't appear, you can then look at that on your own if you're a tester, or we will also provide, of course, details in a training, and we will have a kickoff meeting and, of course, training videos available before the go live. So it seems that the system is still thinking before it provides us the additional information section. Let's see if I go and try and add a present and proposed, maybe that section will appear, maybe not. So if we go here and we will select this product. And now our business rules are well enforced because I have not selected an organization. It will give me an error message. Let's see if after this save, we will get the additional information section. If it doesn't appear, we will move to the finalization steps. So we'll leave a little bit time for our important Q&A. See. It's not quite behaving as I hoped it would. Let's try very quickly. But here you can see if you have different scopes, you can then link the scope and the product. It appears, unfortunately, that for some reason our additional information section is not appearing. There it just came. So now you can see, meanwhile, while I'm here, I'll show you that as I've added another product, it has now is correctly displaying it as a grouping. And also I have two authorization products, two different centrally authorized products. So it's also correctly indicating it as a work sharing. And now we can go and move to the additional information section. I won't go through all of these steps, but just to show you that the, it's feature complete. However, for some reason, we're only getting the extended data exclusivity button here. So we will not spend too much time on that, and we will move for the finalization. But I can guarantee that the rest of the sections are also available. There are some minor issues here still that impact this particular section. So I'm aware of a bug that is affecting this section. So that's probably what has happened. But
unfortunately, it may very well be that this is not a bug, but we do have implemented business rules depending on the types of change that you choose. We are showing and hiding other sections. So if you do not have the correct...
Yes, I tested with this product that is an orphan product as a pediatric, and I did get that section earlier with this scope. So it seems it's just perhaps slightly temperamental, or there's a specific order where things have to be selected. But yes, don't be concerned. It will be there and working perfectly once we come to the UAT. So here we have the list of annexed documents, which will of course not be auto-ticked. This is a defect that's causing these to be ticked already. Similarly, you have the declaration where you have all the options available. Again, not auto-ticked for you, but you will be selecting them yourself. You will then choose an implementation date where the date will be in correct format. For proof of payment, as this is a CAP products, we have defaulted it to no, and the MAH is here automatically because I have two organizations. I have an ability to edit or change the organization for the billing purposes. And then finally, we have the section for the signatories. So you do not add a signature per se here in this web UI. You add the details of the main signatory, but you cannot sign the form here. Then you just simply, let's imagine I filled that section in. So then I save, and then we can export the form, and then we can finalize. I have already exported a form, so just to make it slightly quicker, I will need to stop sharing and share again so that I can show you a PDF. So here is our PDF rendition, which has been generated. So it has this familiar look and feel. There are still some minor issues with that. For example, the spelling is in an American format, so that will be, of course, aligned to reflect the NTA format. You can jump from different section to section as before. Please note these yellow bits will definitely not be there. And this is, as I generated this earlier, this is not now reflecting the selections that I just did there. So I had a grouping and a work sharing and type on B and type on A, but you will see that all the sections are here. The information is filled in from the form. Automatically the scopes are selected, and you will have here, as I mentioned, these sections do exist in the web UI, and I had indeed filled them in a previous form where you can see there. And then just very quickly show you the XML is here. It's attached to the PDF rendition. You cannot edit it, and you should not attempt to edit this. It's very important that you don't attempt to edit the PDF rendition or this XML, but just to show you it is there available. And of course, it can be read if so desired. But I will there conclude my presentation. Apologies, it did take longer than anticipated, but we were very keen to show you all these new features and to really show that we are very, very close. There are bugs in the system, but feature complete we are. So thank you very much. We move to the questions.
Christina, I've been responding to a lot of questions in the meantime while you're presenting.
Thank you.
If you could show us one more thing before we go to the question section. I know we're late on time, but we have moved the list of products, available products. And we could show this briefly because this will be one of the most used features, especially for the UAT. So
of
if
course.
you go into the application,
yes, I'll just jump in here. Yes.
See some available.
Yeah.
But if you cannot find your product, Christina will now show you.
So here, medicinal products. So I'm in the very top menu, and I will go here. And here you can see the full list of products available in the system today. You can see there are 345 pages. We can search. So for example, the product that I used in my sample is here. And you, of course, also have on the side ways of the filters to search differently. So that is also available. So this has all available products. So these are all products. This view is not linked to your access to your company's products. This is all products available.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you very much for this presentation. And also showing this list because this contains the MAH. And if you're missing your product within the application during the UAT or later on, you know who to contact and who to request a role with.
I shall stop sharing.
Thank you, Christina. So I think we can now move to the Q&A part. So I want to thank all the presenters for the informative demo. We have tried as much as possible to answer in the background in writing to the questions. This Q&A on Slido will remain open, so you will have the opportunity to read through the replies, and we will also publish a written Q&A. Now we will address some of the top questions live, but be reassured that the different replies will be made available. So here we have the first question. As long as the UK MHRA uses eIF, eIF, what is the plan for DADI? Will the UK MHRA continue to use the web-based DADI form? And will it have access to PMS? And how will data updates be handled? So in the call, we also have Veronica Lipucci Di Paola, who is product co-owner for PMS. So maybe Christina and Veronica, you can reply to this question from the different perspectives. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So I'll start from the eAF point of view. So unfortunately, due to the Brexit, we are of course not, as UK is not part of the EU, we are not working together with MHRA hosting the form. This is an EU application form, so MHRA may continue using the PDF form, which will remain available through the website, of course, for some time, even after the transitional period has finished, because, of course, you may have started your variation application while the transitional period was still ongoing. So, and you may need to do an update of the form. So we won't completely remove the form or kill the web services for some time, but we're not officially working with MHRA. So I'll hand over to Veronica with regards to the product availability.
Thank you, Christina, and good morning, everyone. I'm Veronica from PMS. I will just complement Christina's answer from a PMS perspective, because you know, following the Brexit, there is a protocol, which is the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland. So if there is any product that has been authorized at national level within the UK via the national procedure, the CPMRP, which are meant to be sold in the Northern Ireland under the same protocol I mentioned, then PMS will follow the same rules as applicable to ex-CVMPD, and the same applies in case of medicinal products which are authorized under centrally authorized procedures, or products indeed that have to be sold in Northern Ireland. So we don't touch, we don't change the formal agreement that we had, but of course, as Christina mentioned, there are a few changes from a UK perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. So next question is, okay, so we have a new front runner for the next question. So can we have any option to edit the form once again after completing the finalization step?
I'm sorry, I believe this question is wrongly at the top and was
Okay.
to several other questions. The short answer here, though, is yes, you can reopen the form by reopening it, or it will come from read-only to writable again.
Thank you. Does the downloaded PDF application form need to be signed by a scanned signature? Is a signature mandatory?
I can take that. This is something that has been discussed quite extensively. No, there is no need to add any scanned signature. If you wish, you can do so. There is no need. You should also be able to sign it using a real digital signature. However, we don't foresee mandatory signature requirements. We will be of course, providing more information with regards to signing of the forms before the go live, but this is not anticipated.
Thank you. Can the web-based eAF downloaded at any time during preparation and an interim version saved at a local drive in order to be reviewed by others, for instance, by someone who does not have access to the DADI portal?
So we have implemented a feature to actually share it in the portal. So anybody you want to share it with, you can just assign the co-author. This is especially for sharing it with third parties. Now, of course, you can just download it into a PDF and send it via email. But this is an old way of working, and if you want to enter the way of the web, we very highly recommend to use the in-browser features.
If present and proposed is very long, is it still possible to refer to an annex in the form which includes the information?
Of course, there is no change to the procedure, but this would not be advised because, of course, if you have an annex, the data in the annex could not be automatically imported into the systems. And that's one of our main aims with the DADI form, that the automation will be enabled. But from the procedural point of view, or for certain types of changes, if it's multiple, let's say tens and tens of pages, of course, you can still refer to an annex as you do today. So from the procedural and kind of form field point of view, there is no change.
So we try to not limit, but incentivize by making it especially user-friendly. The box, when you type in, will grow if you just type more. We do support rich text now. You can copy-paste. You can enter tables. So this should be a lot more user-friendly than it was before. So try it out before trying an annex.
Okay, will you be providing a DADI guide similar to the eAF registration guide that has been released recently?
Absolutely. And we're also hoping to do little short videos of different sections of the form. So you don't have to watch a long video to try and find the part that you want to fill in, but we're hoping to provide all sorts of guidance material. And absolutely, there will be a similar guide to how to use the web UI.
Will the recording be shared, and more or less when, and will the slides be shared? Yes, for sure, as we usually do. We will share both of them. They will be made available via the event page and the submission website. The recording will be also made available via the EMA YouTube channel. For the slides, beginning of next week, they will be available. For the recording, of course, we would need to do some editing before publication, so in the next weeks. For present and proposed change, apart from manual texting and adding pictures, can we attach the present and proposed document?
As we referred earlier, yes, it's possible. You would just include it in the relevant section of the ECTD sequence. So in the same section as you include the form, so section 1.2 on the human ECTD module 1. So yes, it's possible. We don't encourage that, of course, but I fully understand, and I know there are certainly scenarios where it's not feasible to include all the changes because the change may be in a document that is not or is so extensive that it would not make any sense. But do not attach it into the form using the paperclip, but just add it as a separate document like you would do it today.
Is the progress in the DADI portal saved automatically in case of poor performance, broadband issues? Will we have to redo a form, or will it be automatically saved for recovery?
So we have various save points when you fill in this procedure. It is not just saved when you click on save, but also every time you move to a pop-up, every time you navigate slightly, you enter a new line in the table. So this is a standard Power Apps feature which is used in the background. There are a lot more save points than actually people clicking on save. This makes it very unlikely to lose data in case of a system crash or anything similar.
Thank you. Okay, so here we have a question on data. What if XVMPD data is incorrect? We recently submitted a correction, however, it's still not updated in the EMA database. So if the eAF takes info from the XVMPD, how does that work?
I can take the question. So we do expect, because we performed the UAT following the migration from XVMPD and also SIAMED, so we know that some data might result incorrect. Now, with the go live of DADI, you may see this data probably not perfect. We will encourage and recommend you to check the XVMPD data to make the correction directly in the system. So with the use of Delta, this will be propagated to PMS database and you will see them reflected in the relevant DADI form. And this is mostly relevant to the XVMPD. In future, we are also planning to release a user interface and the full connection with the API. So in this way, you will be able to directly correct and enrich the data directly in PMS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Okay, so now I will hand over to Joris for the closing part. In the meanwhile, I kindly invite you to vote in our poll whether you are satisfied with the webinar and how likely you are to recommend this webinar to appear. So Caterina, if you can please share the slides for closing next steps. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back. I think the key thing to see here indeed is that, so first of all, for the testers indeed, the system will be open, not for testing, but indeed to poke around. Do count indeed. We are still fixing bugs. That is the reason why we delayed the UAT. And indeed to move forward, the recording, the presentation, and the Q&A from Slido will all be made available, potentially first indeed in raw form, and eventually indeed they may find their way indeed into proper Q&A documents and FAQ documents and whatnot. The publication of the Q&A documents indeed, so that is going to happen. There's also going to be a joint DADI and PMS Q&A document. This is not the operational Q&A document. This is indeed very much about the products themselves and indeed the work being done on them. So this is very much indeed a next iteration of the Q&A document that we last released in March, I believe, right, right, Christina? The UAT is going to take place in the second half of this month instead of the first half of this month, so between 19th and 30th of September. And indeed, there's the regular system demo is also scheduled at the end of September. And just to remind everyone, the system demo as part of our Agile Cadence is not going to be a full walkthrough like you got today. Indeed, it's going to be specifically looking at the key features and especially indeed, I think some of the key fixes that we've done, and perhaps indeed also some initial feedback from the UAT. So with that, I'd like to wish you all a wonderful afternoon. I'd like to thank our demoers and Christina and Katerina indeed for facilitating, and I wish you all a good afternoon and a good weekend.